Yeah, what's up with your teacher that the course? We'll be considering the last aspect of our topic on water. We'll be considering water pollution. So we'll be looking at the causes and the control as well as the cure for water pollution. Water pollution has to do with the indiscriminate discharge of substances into water bodies in amount that is harmful to the living organism in the water. That's water pollution. And there are about 4 major pollutants of water. We call them water pollutants. The first one is refuse and sewage. Second one is industrial and agricultural waste. Third one is crude oil spill. The fourth one is thermal pollution. Thermal pollution, that is heat polluting water. So I have to, as our normal way, we have to use mnemonics to carry everything. You don't need to be cramming. So let's just call everything rigged. Where R is refuse and sewage, where I is industrial and agricultural waste, where C is the crude oil spill, and the T that is there will be the thermal pollution. Thermal pollution. So let's consider the first one, refuse and sewage. Refuse and sewage. We use a lot of things at home, and most of these things get dumped into the waterways, especially people that live close to the waterways or to the gutter side. In some areas that are not well developed and well planned, some people are living close to the water side. So whenever there is rain, they always believe that that is the time to dump refuse, all the refuse of their home. They bring it out, pour it inside the gutter, and you know what will happen? The rain and the flood will carry everything, take it to the river. You can see this river that is in this page now, how everything has been polluted with domestic wastes. Apart from that, sewage also gets dumped into the river. I remember in those days, what people normally do is they will go to that gutter whenever it's raining, put their bomb there, shit there, then the water will carry it to the river. All these things are polluting the rivers. Now the question is, how do they pollute river? That is our concern as scientists. How do this refuse and sewage pollute rivers? Now, most of the sewage, that is dung, sheets, all those stuffs, most of this sewage, they are biodegradable. Biodegradable means they can be broken down by bacteria whenever they enter the river. Now, when decomposers are acting on this sewage, decomposers uses up oxygen in the water. So when there are many sewage in the water and decomposers are trying to decompose them, these decomposers will be using up the little oxygen that is available in the water for the animals to use. So that will create something we call increase in biological oxygen demand, BOD. Biological oxygen demand means the demand for oxygen inside that water will increase, because some of the aquatic plants will not have enough oxygen again to be able to do their life processes. So some of them will die, and some of the animals there also will also die when the oxygen is not enough. This is due to the action of bacteria that are decomposing the sewage that you are passing to the river. So scientists, we should understand the implication of whatever we do on the environment. So this is how refuse and sewage actually cause water pollution. The next one is industrial and agricultural waste. Industrial and agricultural waste. Chemical waste from industries such as acids, organic solvents, industry that produce all these chemicals, mercury compounds, and in the agricultural sector, the fertilizers and the insecticides that we are using to kill the pests in the farm. All these wastes get thrown down into the river, or they get washed into the river. So the issue is, when they get to the river, what do? Mercury compounds easily absorb into the body of fishes. So when those industrial people, when they pack all their waste and put it inside the body of water, all the fishes and the animals inside them absorb these particular compounds of mercury. And you know what happens after? When anybody goes to that water to go and fish, and you are able to kill a fish and you eat that fish, that mercury will transfer from the fish to your system. And what happens? You are going to develop something we call mercury poisoning. It kills very fast. In fact, if you have been watching old time movies, you will see how people use mercury to kill kings unknowingly. So that this is what happens. This is what we are now doing to ourselves because of this industrial waste that we are dumping into the water bodies. What about insecticides that we just empty them untreated into the water bodies? They also go there and do harms to the substances or to the animals and plants inside the water bodies. We are disturbing the ecosystem in the aquatic habitat by dumping all these things there. How does fertilizer cause water pollution? You also have to know that is a very strong WAEC question. How does fertilizer cause water pollution? When you dump fertilizer into the water bodies, what do you observe? Fertilizer normally increase growth of plants inside the water bodies. So when you get there, plants inside the water bodies will grow faster, number one, and they become more in population. Now when they become more in population, what will happen inside the water bodies? There will be competition for food, competition for water, and competition for oxygen. So it will now become a case of survival of the fittest, because you have allowed this fertilizer to produce more plants than normally should be present inside the water. So some plants that could not survive this competition will eventually die. Some animals also that wouldn't survive this competition will also eventually die. And what will happen when they die? They will need decomposers. And when decomposers come, what happen? They use up oxygen. And when they use up the oxygen, there will be more death. Eventually, a lot of death will occur, and there will be the water body will begin to stink and begin to smell badly because of the effects of multiple deaths of organisms in the water. So these are the ways by which mercury compound, fertilizers, and insecticide cause water pollution. Take note of what we are saying. The next one is crude oil spill. Oil spillage occurs very well in the offshore. Offshore is inside the water. Now, in those areas in the Niger deltas of Nigeria, you will see that we have a lot of agitations there, and this one militant, that one militant. And what are they actually fighting for? They are fighting for their resources, their water resources that is being polluted by the day. Pollution or by oil spillage can occur from the tanker. When the tanker is carrying the crude oil from the middle of the sea to the shore, accident can occur and carelessness can also occur, such that this oil will get spilled, that is, we pour into the water, into the sea. Now when this happens, any organism, any living thing that is under that area where there's water, where there's crude oil spill, all the organisms under will die. Do you know the reason? The reason is because that oil, that crude oil, cannot allow oxygen to dissolve into the water. So any organism that is living under the area of that particular crude oil spillage is going to eventually die. And when they die, you already know what will happen. Then any fish that is caught or that died because of oil spillage, that kind of fish is not edible. You cannot eat it because it's actually poisonous. Those organic compounds inside the oil cannot allow you to eat those fishes. Now see how people will be losing their employment because of crude oil spillage. See how people will be losing their livelihood because their major occupation in that area is what do you call it now? Is a fishing. So when there is crude oil spillage and the fishes died, what should they eat and what would they go and sell in the market? If they go to sell fishes that have died of oil spillage, they are also killing people. So that is why crude oil spillage is a major issue in the riverine areas where most of our oil is coming from. Apart from that, it is very expensive to treat to clean up a place that is polluted by crude oil. So that is why it's a major concern to environmentalists today. Now, this crude oil spill may not occur on water alone. It can even occur on land. It can occur onshore. Whenever crude oil spill on land, the fertility of that land is affected. There's barely anything you can plant on that land that will grow because of the presence of oil that is there. So that is why the communities that are endangered by this crude oil spillage, they normally get some compensation from the government, but it is actually a major problem in Nigeria. So that is how crude oil causes water pollution. So we look at thermal pollution. This is a wide question. Thermal pollution. In other words, we want to talk about how heat, how does it cause water pollution? We call that thermal pollution. Now pay attention very well. Heat normally find their way into water bodies from factories that are located near the sea or near the river. How? When these factories, when they finish using up their plants, they want to cool down the plants. What they normally do is that they will collect water from the river beside them. They will use it to cool their plants. Plant means generator, whatever they are using now in the factories. Now, when the generator cools down, or the plant or the whatever they are using for their business cools down, now the water will become hot because it has cooled down their plants. So what this company do is they will now take that water and return it back into that river or into the sea where they've taken it. Now imagine that they are taking hot water back into the river. How will that affect the livelihood of the organisms? I'm talking about the plant and animal now that are living inside the water. Number one, when that is done, what will happen is that the temperature of the water will increase. Take note of that. When the temperature of the water increase above a particular level, the condition of that water becomes inconvenient for the plant and animal living inside the water. That's number one. Number two, because the temperature of the water will increase, the amount of oxygen that can be dissolved inside that water is going to decrease. When you get to SS2, I will teach you something about how the solubility of a gas in water usually decrease when the temperature of the water increases. This is what is coming into play in this place. These factory owners that are returning hot water back to the rivers, they are increasing the temperature of the water that is there, and the level of oxygen that is present is going to reduce. Of course, it's very easy from your kinetic theory. When there's increase in temperature, there will be increase in the energy of molecules, and those molecules have ability of escaping. So when oxygen now dissolves in water, and you pour hot water into that particular water and there's increase in the temperature, the oxygen that was already dissolved in the water will gain kinetic energy, and many of them will evaporate from the water because now they have enough energy to evaporate. The implication is that the amount of oxygen that will be remaining inside the water will be drastically low to sustain the life activities inside the water. This will lead to competition and death of organisms in the water. This is how thermal pollution, this is how water is polluted by heat. So if you are asked to taste two ways by which heat causes thermal pollution, number one, you say that heat increases the temperature of the water bodies, making it unbearable for the organism inside it to live. And number two, heat decreases the amount of dissolved oxygen in the water, leading to competition and death of organisms inside that water. So this is how heat causes thermal pollution. Now, how can we control water pollution? How can we control water pollution? Number one, those refuse and sewage that we just take to the water to pollute the water, we can burn them in incinerator. We have some incinerator like the one that I put here now. This incinerator that I put in this place, we have them like that you can burn the refuse inside them. When you burn the refuse inside them, they have some special something that will prevent air pollution. So once you burn it like that, that is all. Or why not let us convert that particular sewage, that your sheet, let's buy it to fertilizer and be using it to grow plants. So in that way, we are going to avoid water pollution from escalating. That's number one. Number two, the next one now is that chemical waste, those waste from industries, from agricultural factories and chemical factories, we can convert those waste to harmless substances before we dump them into the sea, such that when they enter the sea, they will not cause harm to the organisms that are living in the sea. So this is how we can prevent chemical waste from actually polluting our water bodies. Another method of controlling water pollution now is by implementing safety measures to prevent crude oil spillage. Those who are working on the shore, or that are working in the oil rig, let us implement safety measures. Okay, this is how you must do it to avoid this oil spillage, to avoid carelessness and accidents. Then those safety measures should be not just giving out alone, but it should be implemented. We should be supervised that these tankers of drivers, these drivers of tankers that are carrying oil from the sea to the land should abide by these safety measures. Apart from that, we can pass strict laws. In the National Assembly, they can pass laws. Okay, this is the amount of sewage or refuse you are supposed to produce, or okay, don't drop your refuse in the water bodies on the gutter. We are going to have waste management board like we have in Lagos, we have them in other parts of the countries. They are the one that will go from house to house to collect all those refuse instead of the normal usual way of putting them inside the gutter during the rain. So strict laws should be passed to control water pollution by individual at home and by companies. Those chemical and agricultural companies, they must obey those strict laws, so it will help us to reduce water pollution drastically. Finally, and the most important method of controlling water pollution is by education. Education, as you can see on this picture now, you can see this particular man educating others. Now that measure can be adapted. Let people understand the impact of what they are doing to the environment immediately surrounding them. Let them understand that if you pollute the water bodies and people go there to pick fish and you eat it, you still be harming yourself. Let them understand and get awareness of the consequences of polluting our water bodies. So education and awareness is the most important and the most effective way of controlling water pollution. When people knows what will happen when they pollute the water bodies, then it will become less difficult. It become more difficult for them to pollute our water bodies. So this is how we control water pollution. So we'll be stopping the class here and we'll be meeting later. God bless you.